All right. Can you hear me?
I can totally hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, son of a bitch. We're in business.
I don't know what's going on. Must have been, I don't know. I'm at a loss. I got to pull up the chat and see what's going on. Where are you, YouTubes? All right. Think we're in money. I just want to make sure. Yeah. Now you still hear me, Brett?
I absolutely hear you. Absolutely.
Yeah, all right. I think we're
I
cooking.
was half tempted to mute myself and look like and then to just terrify you. But I can't do that.
Cooking with grease. All right, so let's get underway. We're not gonna play the intro. We'll reintroduce it because maybe that's what kicked it off. I don't have any idea. Anyways, glad we're back. Glad if you came over to the new video. Adam, Eileen, Tom Flanagan. Good to see it. He's okay. Everything's working. VC, DK, Rory. Good to see you, Rory.
Mirko should be on there, I think, shortly.
Harrigan, Mirko is on there. All right.
Good.
I think we're cooking with grease. Sorry about that, guys. I have absolutely no idea. I rebooted. Brett came back. I don't know. I think it's Gabe's intro might have tanked the show. I don't know.
It was too powerful. It was just too powerful.
It just was, man. He's got the Conan 2D20.
Yeah, he had far too much momentum, and he just crushed the entire show. That's what happens.
That's what it was. Hey, Jonathan, good to see you. First time watching live stream. Hey, good to see you, Jonathan. All right, let's get this show out of the way. Okay.
All right.
Intro's done. Hey, welcome to Gaming and BS. This is Sean.
And this is Brett. Welcome back, folks. Glad everybody could make it. Sean, how the hell are you?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
Not bad. You know, we should probably do is dispense with too much in the pleasantry way, but we should probably talk, right?
Yeah, we should. We should make the big news announcement that's everybody is here and tuned in for.
You do it.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, of course you got to do it. You're the brain.
We should do it at the same time. Ready?
No,
1, 2.
No, well, we can't do that.
Should we roll for initiative?
Fucking, I have a die in front of me. I'll tell you what, you do it. You're the brains. You do it.
All right, so here's the big
announcement. This whole thing was your fault anyway. From the beginning, 7 years ago, it was all your fault.
Oh, fair enough. All right. So just for getting alleviating the what's going on, what's the announcement? We've got good news and bad news depending on what you are interested in. Or what? How do I put this? Okay, so we are making the official announcement that we are going to hang up the show.
Not like now. Don't play a Oh, if that wrecked anything, I'm going to be mad at you. You can hear me?
I can still hear you, man.
Okay, good. Okay.
So we after 7.5 years and 300, it will be 84 episodes.
Correct.
We're gonna call it a day. So it's a mutual thing between Brett and I. It's not one or the other. We've talked about this, and the take, without getting into the weeds, we just agreed that we've had our time, and it's we don't want a pod fade. It never was.
No, when we started this thing, we agreed that when we got to the point where we both said, hey, I think it's time, and we would discuss it, we would agree, do it together, that we would announce it to anybody who happened to still be listening to us. Because when we started this 7.5 years ago, we figured, my wife and the 3 other friends of mine who were listening to us might give a shit if we quit. But we thought, pod fading is just lame, quite frankly, from both of our perspectives. Like, if you know for a fact that you're like, hey, look, we're going to hang this thing up. Let's say that to set expectations. Hey, let's just do session 0 shit, man. Let's just lay it out there. This is what we're doing. When we talked about it, Sean and I had said, we're not going to do like, hey, guess what? Today's it. And we're done. Cause that's kind of a dick move. And we don't want to be that kind of assholes. So we're going to go to episode 384. That one, our finale one, will be an AMA, Ask Us Anything. Sean and I are going to sort out, I believe it's on gamingandbs.com/AMA. If you do want to ask us anything, feel free to go over there and hit us up. but May 9th, 30th, June 13th, June 27th are the next episodes. One of the things that we talked about a lot was what do we keep, right? Discord has to stay. We're like the community that Sean helped to curate, and that all of our moderators and all the really kick-ass people and just the BSers that hang out there. We're like, we got to hang on to the Discord because that's the thing we got to have. The show site still remains 7.5 years of catalog. So we're like, hey man, if nothing else, if someone says, hey, you did a podcast, I can say, yes, start on this episode 1 and work your way forward. Plenty to listen to, right? We can still use that. And it's something we created together. And I think we're both very proud of it. I know we are. We're both very proud of it. One of the things we talked about is basically with the, not explosion, but because Discord's working, and it works really, really well, we're going to basically shit can the forums. We're going to say, hey, our online forums are going to go away by the end of July. That if nothing else, it's one less thing that Sean has to do care and feeding on. So, and less chance that Sean will have to upgrade the forums and break the website again. So there's always that.
There's just very little going on, and I know it's a good long form site, but it's if there's not a lot of interaction and not a lot of posts there, then we need to just can the forums. But good news, we're gonna have BSerCon. That continues. So
absolutely I just for the record, Sean was like, I don't know, should we? And because I wasn't there this last one for the inaugural, and I still feel bad about that. But Sean and I talked it over, and I pushed him on it, and he's like, do you think so? I'm like, dude, we got to do this. I think it's a really cool thing to do, even if we don't have any intentions of it becoming like this massive online convention type of thing. But I think it's a natural evolution of all the really kick-ass people we've met, and the friends we've made, and the friends each of you have made online in the Discord community and otherwise. And it was a hit. Everybody I talked to. I was on a podcast yesterday with Edwin and Lou and so on. We were just talking this whole dungeon, and we were talking about BSerCon, and Edwin was telling me how much fun he had. So anyway, that's got to continue. When do you want to run that, Sean? Is that going to be the same time every year? What are you thinking? So
I think it was the last weekend in January last year, but it's easy when it's, I think a 4-weekend month. So gotcha. We're going to, I looked at next year, 2023, and I think a third weekend in January consistently, as long as there's people that are wanting to play games online. I don't plan on taking it face to face. We could do that at GameholeCon if we want somebody to do all the heavy lifting, if we want to do face to face. There's a game day down the road maybe, but it'll remain online. We'll use primarily the Discord. We don't have any intention of changing the name of the Discord. But we'll do that probably going forward. We could just say the third weekend in January, it's BSerCon, and we'll keep that running as long as there's interest, even if there's 10 people. I could care less. Like, I would love to see it grow and be bigger, but it's virtual. So I think as the pandemic may subside or people relax a little bit as far as restrictions, face-to-face may be the way to go, and then the virtual just doesn't have a lot of gas. But hopefully there's enough interest to take part, and with other members of the community that have met each other, appreciate the conversation on the Discord. And I plan on doing that. So
if nothing else, like Sean told me, he's like, hey man, it is, we're still centered in Wisconsin, and in January, it's kind of a really good time to stay inside and play some games from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah. It's January. Yeah. So we're not going to have to compete with, I don't know, the summer, the 4th of July, Memorial Day, other online or other face-to-face conventions. And there may be others in more tropical places than Wisconsin in January.
Exactly.
But I could say there's probably going to be a few locals and Midwesterners and, folks in Colorado maybe that are just I don't want to leave my house. It's too damn cold and there's too much snow and I don't want to get snowed in somewhere.
So obviously Sean, you said we don't want to get in like the super deep weeds, but I think we have a lot of people who quite frankly have been very loyal. People have been patrons off and on or consistent, and other people who haven't supported us in that type of manner, but have done nothing but just spread the word like, hey, you should listen to this. Oh my gosh, this thing is really cool. The Kickstarter I did for my Avalon setting, I don't believe it would have done half as well or at all as anything without the BSR community to kind of help push and do that stuff. I think it's worth us saying out loud here so that there's no like guess. This isn't like Sean and Brett still like each other, still really good friends. There's no change there, nothing there. Sean hates me, it's fine. So nothing's changed there. And this isn't a matter of.
It all started with ditching my motorcycle. That's where it all started.
It all started with that.
Started with getting rid of my motorcycle. It's been all downhill since.
Everything went to hell from there. But when Sean and I first started this a long time ago, I think we may have said this on the show before, but a lot of times we both agreed that, podcasts seem to have like a shelf life. Like at a certain point, the format we have, everything else we've got going here, okay, have we said what we wanted to say? Have we covered the big points? Are we getting to, are we done? Are we wrapping up? Are we kind of out of gas type of thing? And the answer is, yeah, we're ready to hang this one up. We did talk, just to be honest, and this isn't like a teaser. I swear to God, we have nothing in the pipe, but at some point, I mean, again, Sean and I are still friends. We still get all the gear. We may get together and say, hey, I'd like to talk about something else. We may say, hey, that idea that we had about actual plays, maybe we could try that. Maybe we could do something a little bit different. I don't know. Again, there's not a teaser in there. I swear, I promise you, there's no teaser in that. We're not promising something else that isn't going to come to fruition, but we're not closing the door on doing something different or something similar at a future date. It's just, if nothing else, from my perspective, I'm like, wow, this is, like in every other Monday, I could run that game I wanted to run for some BSers, like every other Monday. I have every other Monday free. I could do that. So anyway, I just don't want anybody to think that like we're sick of this or there's nothing negative about it other than the fact that we're like, hey man, I think we're done and we need to be honest about it to ourselves and to our listeners and our friends.
We feel we've covered absolutely everything. Single angle you could possibly imagine with role-playing games today. So until, I don't know, 5-10 more years, whatever that looks like, it's 384 is the magic number.
There you go.
Having said that, Brett mentioned the last episode. We're going to do a countdown. So today is not the last show. It's not the last time. Hopefully you'll stick with us. This is the countdown to the series, the series finale. We're going to do thrilling trailers and all that stuff. Probably not. But the last episode is an AMA, if we can get enough. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it'll just be me and Brett wallowing in our tears and our drinks. And you go to gamingnbs.com/AMA. And if you go there, it'll take you to a Google form. You got to put one in, hit submit, put it in the next one if you have more than one. But then we can read them down the line. We'll sort them out or whatever if people have multiples. And we'll so the last episode could be 10 minutes. Or it
3
could
hours.
be 3 hours.
I don't know.
We leave it up to you. It's up to you. So somebody will say, well, AMA, is that like RPGs only or anything? Or
anything means anything. Anything means anything.
Ask us anything. So, and Brett he's like, if we do that, Sean, I will answer every single question.
I did not say that.
Truthfully, honestly, candidly, no filters.
I specifically
he will
stated.
Tell you exactly what he thinks of PBTA and Blades in the Dark. He will tell you exactly how he loves Matt Colville. If that hasn't become clear over the years.
I see. All right. Just setting me up.
Meanwhile,
nice.
I get to lie about everything. I will embellish. I will lie. I will. Yeah.
So it's like 300. It's no. Why change now? I mean, it's been 380 some episodes. Might as well stay on,
Fair statement.
Yeah.
It will be live, of course, and we hopefully will not have any frickin' technical snafus. But why would we do the last show without something happening?
Something stupid going on.
So if anything doesn't happen, we'll probably just mute ourselves and pretend something happened, and then we'll reboot our computers and everything.
Just to keep the facade.
Yes. Yes. So
Sean, I'm gonna ask you ask. This is people do this to me at work, and it normally drives me nuts. But I'm gonna ask a question for the room. Sean, do you does it bum you out, or are you at peace with this? You good?
It is a strange with things like this. It has become bittersweet is usually what they say.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be. I don't. Well, we still have 4 episodes, which is so
Correct.
it's like I got to do next week or the 2 weeks from now, and I got to do another 2 weeks.
Yep.
So we still are going to take random encounters, although it's trickled off a little bit because we've gone to an every 2 week
Correct.
show, and there's still a pandemic, and people aren't listening to podcasts on their commutes as much as they used to if they're still not commuting. So that I say that because I don't think it'll hit me until after the last show.
When you don't do it, you hang it up. You say, "Well, that's cool."
Yeah, in 2 weeks I got a show. Oh, I don't.
I don't have a show.
Yeah. Oh, probably in like another week when Brett gets back from killing Paddington up in the Canadas.
Nice.
Then I'll go. Oh, then I got a show. No, there's nothing there. So it is, dude. There are so many positive things that have come out of this show. It is disappointing to end it, obviously, but some of the things that have come out of it is like, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean it. Without too much hyperbole, I can say it is one of the coolest creative things I've ever done.
Yeah,
it really is, and the people we've met. We'll talk about this more as we go along.
Brett and I have podcasted longer than people have been married.
Yeah, this podcast lasted longer than my first marriage. Yes, it absolutely did. Yeah, absolutely did. Longer than my first marriage. Absolutely.
Hey, there have been good shows that have come before us. There are good shows that have been around before us that are still going, and they find a way to do it every week. And I'm telling you, and anybody that's listened to us and has tried and succeeded in getting a show off, and they're going down the road, and that's great. This is not easy to do every week or every other week. It's, but it's fun.
It takes effort. It is fun. Yeah. It takes effort.
It is rewarding beyond what you can believe. It really is. So
I'm just hoping that the next time I go to a gaming convention that I don't get stabbed. That's all I'm hoping.
Well,
somebody doesn't, shank me in the bathroom for you killed the show and killed me. But
yeah.
We'll see what happens.
I mean, yeah, that's possible, dude.
It is possible.
I mean, I could do that.
Yeah, I know you could.
No, I wouldn't.
No.
Brett's bigger than me. He knows Taekwondo.
It's true, I do.
He's like Rex Kwando.
You ready? Should we move on?
We got a random encounter, but we got a voicemail, so I'm afraid to push the magic button. But I think I'm kind of feeling frisky.
All right, go for it, man.
All right. Do I have it on here? I do have it on here somewhere. Well, here we go. All right, so let's get in a random encounter. I should probably just play the intro for that. Now I'm all thrown off, man. It's like I never even did this show before. Random encounter where we field emails, voicemails, comments from social media. We have a voicemail this week from DM Kojo with his timely self. Let's see if we can play it and not crash everything.
Hey, how are my favorite BSers doing? DM Kojo. Wanted to call. It's been a long time. I have to admit, life has gotten in the way of me keeping up on the episodes, so I'm going through the back catalog, trying to get caught up, and I came across one of my favorite topics, Save or Die. I think you guys covered it really well. I think just the thing I wanted to reiterate and emphasize maybe, because I love Save or Die mechanics. I think it keeps players on their toes. I think that I like that even the mightiest of heroes can be felled by, poison and things that would kill people under normal circumstances. But I think a couple things to remember, and you guys kind of got into it, was one, that the save or die always comes after, there were other ways to get around it, as Brett kind of called it, plot armor. Definitely, when I'm implementing save or die situations, it's only if the players make some pretty dumb choices that they even get in the save or die situation. Another thing to remember is that, the concern of higher level characters, if you've invested in dying with the save or die, the saving throw does improve quite a bit as they level up, and so that does improve their odds of avoiding the save or die at a higher level. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is an underutilized thing, I think, in terms of AD&D when we played was that when your character died, you could haul the body back to town and spend a bunch of that gold that you recovered and pay for the high-level priest to, cast a resurrection spell or a raise dead spell and bring your character back. It kind of would involve kind of that quest of getting the body there and, the quest of having enough gold, but gold is usually plentiful in AD&D, so it wasn't usually a big issue in the end. So it's a cool plot device, but in the end, death didn't even mean dead necessarily in first edition. So just wanted to share those. Excited to be back listening to the show and getting caught up. See you guys. Bye.
Thanks.
Can you hear me, Sean?
I can hear you.
Awesome. So thank you, Kojo. That was good. I think it's interesting. It's been a while since I listened to that episode, but I remember I was actually talking about the Save or Die stuff this last Saturday when I was running my Pathfinder game for my crew. And we were talking about how it's hard to kill characters in the quote unquote modern versions of D&D, right? As a lot of people refer to it as. And we actually went back and forth, like the pluses, the minuses, the bonuses of that. My buddy Nick said he likes both, but one of the things he likes about the hard to kill aspects is the fact that he feels like the character has a better chance of surviving for a satisfying character arc because of that. He thinks it that helps with the longevity. My buddy Lenny, of course, is like, don't care if I die, I die. Move on. It's just kind of, it doesn't bother him. But we did agree that, like, as you said, which I had mentioned, there's multiple ways and different things you can do before you get to a save or die scenario. And the one that the group kind of unanimously didn't like was the seemingly random DM fiat save or die, with no warning, no foreshadowing of any kind, not even a hint that, it looks like it might contain instant super tetanus, because of its rusty nature or something. It just, that was universally poo-pooed as bad, but otherwise it was just an interesting conversation. I'm glad you listened to that one, Coach. That's cool.
Yeah.
Anything
good to hear
Ben?
from you, Kojo. It's been a little while. Very timely voicemail.
Yeah, I hope the school year's doing all right for you too, Kojo.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Wrapping up soon.
Yeah.
Anything else, man? We good?
No, that's it. Let's get into the main topic.
Let's do that.
What are we talking about this week, Brett?
Well, one of the things I want to talk about was after we did the whole Brett runs a game for Sean type of thing is one-on-one, not solo, but one game master, one player, or variation on that type of RPG play. I think we may have talked about this a little bit in ages past, but it was interesting when I was running the game for you, Sean, how I, apart from our little kind of experimental, take the quick aside, speaking to the mic component, it's interesting the different tactical and like the problems, I guess, the problems and different challenges that come up with running a 1v1, even though you had two characters, right? It's still one player and going through that. There's certain things that I'm like, well, I better not do X because if I do that, the whole thing's over, right? You don't have there's no one else to get your fat out of the fire, so to say. So Sean, have you had, I've run one-on-one D&D in a couple of the games over the years periodically, but have you ever done it in like a campaign or a longer term piece, or have you ever done that type of thing before?
I have not. And we should mention that it's sometimes, most of the times it's referred to duet gaming.
Duet gaming?
Duet
I've
gaming,
never
yes.
heard that.
Yeah. 1v1 or 1 versus 1, or then it's, one versus the other, but duet gaming is the,
Duet gaming. Interesting.
Duet gaming. So, I have not, although it's interesting. I mean, I get the, RPGs were kind of built around parties and I don't know, if 4 to 6 people, unless you're Gary Gygax and you're running a campaign of 50 people, but not all at once. But it is a different dynamic. One that I don't think is that there's a lot of advantages.
I think there's some amazingly cool stuff. I mean, I'll just throw out there right out of the gate. Obviously, there are games that are built specifically for this. Cthulhu Confidential is Gumshoe 1-to-1. Robin Laws wrote it. I have a PDF copy of it. And it's rules specifically designed to facilitate that type of play, the duet style play. Instead of having to cobble something together, oh, shoot, I made a mistake. Oh, the combat was too dangerous. Oh, crap, I almost killed Sean's character, so I had to fudge a whole bunch of die rolls to keep this thing going, type of thing. It's specifically designed for that. So, yes, there are some of those out there. And I think
should mention, I haven't read the Cthulhu Confidential yet. I started reading the Night's Black Agents solo ops.
Okay.
And in that game specifically, if you're not familiar with it, Night's Black Agents by Pelgrim Press, it's Jason Bourne meets vampires, modern day, right? And the thing about that game specifically is you play a pre-gen.
Okay.
Essentially. I don't know if you knew that.
I'm just thinking I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that sells. Interesting. Okay, keep going.
But I imagine, and it does say that you could create your own character or substitute a different name, but you're playing the female protagonist.
Okay.
My guess is the reason they do it that way is because it can cover all the bases without creating a character in its typical traditional method, right?
Well, and that's part of the challenge of duet style play, one GM, one player. I don't like that gesture. Is that to curate the game in such a way that it will be enjoyable and that all the pieces fit together, right? That it's geared and designed that way. I could definitely see why people take different approaches. I remember Cthulhu lent me The Hour Between Dog and Wolf, the RPG, which was it's 2 troubled characters and inner demons. And it really didn't have if I remember this one, it didn't have like the traditional GM player role, but it was kind of both playing the same story as both players, I guess would be the best way to look at it. I need to go pick up a copy of that because I remember reading it and I gave it back to him. Ooh, that looks cool. And then I never did anything with it. But I think some of the cool parts about it, and I'll pick on myself before Sean gets a chance. Matt Colville did 2 videos on this, Many Fail States and One-on-One D&D. I've got links in the show notes so you can find them on his YouTube channel. They're both pretty good videos. I know, shocking. I pulled those out. I do love him. He's a great guy. He looks like either my older or younger brother. One of the two. I can't figure out yet. Chat.
Hello, YouTube. This is Matt Colville. Today we're going to be talking about duet play. Today, Brett, this video is for you.
That's how it's going to go. Yeah. Well, one of the things you'll find
when it's all said and done, dude, I think I'm going to do a Matt Colville parody channel. Yeah. I'll call myself Cat Mulville.
That sounds terrible.
I'm sure I won't get a C&D from him at all.
Exactly. Or like a shut the fuck up email text. So one of the things that happens or that's interesting to me, and I've found that some players, when I've done this in the past, it sounds really entertaining, but once the spotlight hits you, it never goes away. Your character is the main attraction in all scenes at all times, right? There's probably things you can do, smash cuts like the camera pulls away. You could do some reveals of what the bad guys are doing, what an NPC is doing per se. But it's basically the game master and you as player having a conversation for 2 to 3 hours about this, a back and forth improv conversation about what's going on.
Sounds like our podcast.
It is a lot like this podcast, only probably more organized and rules to stop us from going crazy.
Fair.
Okay. But the spotlight can be interesting to deal with because I remember Robin Laws saying during Cthulhu Confidential that some playtesters found it to be more of emotionally and physically exhausting to constantly be on the spot. Other people had that I've run into, and I remember Robin saying this as well, is that without having a group to work problems with, like one player, one character, even if it's one player and two characters, having the other player, another mind to bounce things off of as like a true kind of a group type of to solve problems. People found it tricky or found different ways to work around it.
Like a mastermind.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not familiar with a mastermind, it's the more brains are better than one.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
And then you get the party complement that is traditionally known, right? Like you need a cleric and a fighter and a rogue and a magic user to balance everything out that you're going to face. But going back to what you're saying, like the other thing that there's a component of that, Brett, is when you play with a group, I know you know this, many of our BSers do and game masters, there's always going to be a point in time where they have to figure something out. One person could sit there and contemplate it, sure. But if the group does it, the GM could sit back and take a break.
Yeah, I can be like, I gotta take a leak. I'll be right back.
Well, take a break. You guys talk about it.
Okay, take a break. You guys talk. I'm gonna go get a sandwich
or
whatever it is.
They're all talking amongst themselves as players anyway, or player characters.
Yep.
And you sit back and you just kind of absorb it all, because then you're like, oh, they're gonna try that, huh?
Correct.
You want to try that? Because you're just sitting there, right, listening.
Yeah.
And that, but I don't.
You have processing time.
Yes.
Right? That the data's coming at you. You're listening to it like, ooh, crunch. You're crunching numbers and options and things. You're ready to go. Love that idea. My last Pathfinder game, Alpha's Paladin character mentioned something that he said, well, obviously, this is what's happened to the Paladins. This X, Y, and Z has occurred. And I went, that's a brilliant idea. I was toying with that. Oh, yeah, great. Right. I could process that because it wasn't just he and I talking. Right. And so when it's that one-on-one, not only is the spotlight on the player, but it's also on the game master, and the back and forth is much more real time. You know, you don't have that opportunity to process where the player can say, I'm not sure. Go talk to Sean, you know, or Sean says, go get Eileen. I don't know. Go over, talk to Laramie. I don't know what to do now, you know? And I could, okay, no worries, man. Cut over here, smash cut back to you. We can, passing that spotlight around. And it's a time thing. It's like you feel very much exactly on the spot. Like you have to react now. That's how it works. When we did, when I ran that D&D adventure for you, Sean, did you feel pressure to move faster, or did it bother you to not have other players to bounce things off of?
No, I don't think so, because Brett made it where I had to go in particular directions anyway.
It was easier. I mean, I did kind of steamroll you into a box.
Well, part of the point you were making in the adventure was, okay, GM annotation here. So I want Sean to go back in and go below, but he went outside, so I have to find a reason to get him back into the place, right?
Yep.
So, but I don't think there was any. Some scenarios present certain problems. With yours, it wasn't. There wasn't like oh my god, I got like 4 ways to do this thing.
Yeah.
Necessarily, where some scenarios are, and then it can become kind of an issue to solving the problem, or having multiple approaches. Where yours, I was kind of following where things were taking me as a player. And sometimes I think if you play or run a game and it's not so obvious, or you give the player or players, however you're playing, it can be you give them too much paralysis analysis. Like in any game, in life, you get people too many choices. They're like, you know. Yeah.
I don't give executives anything more than 3 examples, and they're all in big bold print with colors, right? Yes. Yeah. Same thing.
2 or 3, maybe tops, but more than that,
one's glaringly obvious.
Yes.
Yes. So I think the other one of the things we did talk about a little bit about that particular game was it was also rather time constrained, right? We didn't say, hey, we'll pick it up later, right? It was like, I'm going to run it for 1 episode. Let's just do that. So there were other constraints and stuff on it, but I get your points. And I think the other thing, one of the reasons I think the reason I wanted to bring up Cthulhu Confidential is because it's interesting. We talk about the different sources of inspiration for games, D&D. Even if you look at Conan is by himself 99% of the time. There's other people around him, but they're NPCs interacting. Conan is the guy. Yeah, he might be with Valeria, or he could be with Belit or whomever else, but it's always he is the star. In many or most of the Lovecraft, I've not read all of his stuff, but most of the stuff of his that I've read, except for a very select few of them, it's one person. There's one protagonist dealing with stuff. The Horror at Red Hook, it's one guy, right? The shit, I can't remember. Mountains of Madness, there's people, right? There's a team. Dunwich Horror, there's actually an investigation group out of Miskatonic, which is kind of where the whole genesis comes. But in general, I think those types of investigation games, yes, we could argue that all RPGs have investigation components to it, but that type of adventure through line, adventure approach or whatever, I think can be more satisfying for individual one-to-one play than a dungeon crawl, where it's like, kill the monsters, take their stuff, kill the monsters, take their stuff. I feel I have done that type of one-to-one gameplay in the past, and then I feel like I'm like, why don't I just run Descent or a board game, or let's go play Diablo or something? Because basically your character is just crushing and killing, and getting more loot and doing so on and so forth. But the times I've had the most fun in duet style play is when it's very role playing heavy, right? And I think if I had to go back and I was going to run another game just for you, Sean, I would say, hey, let's do that again. And I got a different idea. I would tune that plot differently, either that plot specifically, or I would move it, or I take a different angle to it, saying, okay, that wasn't too bad. I think I didn't allow for enough role-playing opportunities for Sean that really mattered and fed things. So let me change and adjust. That's how I would do it if I was going to approach it again with you. But I think the other thing I learned from that too is that it's more fun for me, right? If it would have been a Cthulhu game, I think it would have been a little more interesting. And the other thing that's interesting about a Cthulhu game in general, or that style, is when life is fragile and it's designed to like find out information, don't confront the monster. You might have to run away from it. And that's kind of part of the table stakes of that game. Where in D&D, oftentimes you're playing some variation of a hero, and combat is a big deal. And combat is when shit can escalate really quickly and get off the rails on you, right? When it comes to one-to-one or that duet style play, because if my dice are hot and Sean's are ice cold, he's fucking dead. His characters are just smoked. Like, and some players may not care about that. It's like, yeah, that's cool. That's all part of it. Sometimes you die, sometimes you don't. But I tended to, in that one, I wanted to make sure that I kept the combat to the end, because I wanted to make sure you had a good opportunity to survive and have the big encounter, right? Because I feel the other piece that goes with this too is I felt, we talked about this a little bit. You said you didn't feel like you lost all of your, options, and I didn't like narrow all of your choice, take it away from you. But it feels to me as a game master that if I really want to get good at this, I need to work at it more, because it felt more railroady to me internally than I normally feel when I'm running a game. And I don't know if that's the nature of, or if I just need to read through my Cthulhu Confidential again, crank through the Hour Between Dog and Wolf, some of the other games that are built for that, and so on. But I had that feeling, and you were very kind and said you didn't have that feeling, but it's just something that struck me as one-on-one play as a challenge on the game master side. The player had a lot of spotlight. You don't have anything to work off of. Combat can be dangerous, so on and so forth. But on the game master side, it felt like I almost had to present fewer options because you had fewer tools. And when I start narrowing the options because you don't have as many tools, I felt like, man, am I cutting him off? Am I putting you in a pipe? Like, you're going to go this way. And the scenery sucks too. It's not even, it's not even a railroad with a decent vista to look out the windows at. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And I wonder how you would, or a GM would, change things from kind of a one-shot duet play to a longer term game of duet play?
Yeah, I've only done short one-shot duet plays where it was like a friend of mine, we were playing Vampire, and he's like, hey, I can't make the game this weekend, but I want to do this thing with my character. Sure, let's get together Friday and we'll run through that thing. But it was very heavy role playing.
Sure.
Right. And very rarely did we get into combats or it wasn't like a big brawl type of thing, like in a D&D game. Excuse me. So I don't know. It's just kind of in the nature of how we've been thinking introspectively over the years, just looking at different things we can learn from it too. I think that's the biggest thing for me is I think it's another challenge. And to be honest, this is where I decided after running that AJ and Ilana wanted me to run a D&D game. I think I've mentioned this before. So AJ's made 2 characters. Ilana's made 1. And sometimes she's into playing and sometimes she's like, hey, I want to do this other stuff with my friends, or I want to do this or not. And that frustrates AJ. And I'm kind of like, well, if you guys don't want to play, we can always do something else or whatever. But AJ really wants to play more. And I said, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run this, on this day, every week or every other week, whatever we decide on between 3 of us, no matter how many of you are playing.
And you're all going to play.
Come hell or high water, because I'm your father.
There you go.
That's what I fucking said.
I can ground you.
I can ground you
there
to
you
the
go.
gaming table. You are grounded to this gaming table. You will roll D20s. You'll be goddamn happy about it.
Right. You're not taking full advantage of the situation, I don't think.
I know. Hey, where's my inner drill sergeant? But what I told AJ was I said, I can do this. I will run. I'll run even if it's just you with your 2 characters, or if it's you and Ilana. Well, 3 characters. Like, okay, cool. That sounds fun. It'd be basically, it's a bit of a challenge to myself. I want to make sure that I could do this and have it be fun. And I know AJ will have a good time because we're playing and we're having fun. But I think there's some power in that one-on-one, that duet style play. And I want to investigate it more because I think I could get some cool stuff out of it. It might be short sessions just from the intensity, if you will, of it. Right. But I want to do something that doesn't have the one-shot feel, because in one-shots alone, I tend to narrow the choices. Because I'm like, look, this is a con game type of feel, right? We got 3 hours to play this game. We should probably have a direction or, X number of things to do, get you from point A to point B. There's other ways to describe this. The narrowing of choices is just the broadest thing I can think of. And I think it's really how I felt when I ran it for you. I'm like, I need to slim the choices down and so on. But anyway,
I think the best way to use duet play, or the best implementation of it, is a prequel to leading up to having the group come together.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually. Because
so, Brett,
7 years, man, you read my mind.
Why I'm here, dude.
I know. So back in the before times, Vampire the Masquerade, one of the things I would encourage you to do, and I don't know if it still does it now in the newer edition, but the embrace, your character's embrace, you were encouraged to role play that with you and the storyteller, the game master, to have that role playing and to have the role playing session. I don't like that gesture either.
The embrace.
You're creeping me out. But and I've run Vampire Embraces like in private, like, well, hey, one-on-one, we'll run the session. It was just like back and forth, fun little piece. And then I would also run the embrace for your character, her character, their character, with everybody at the table. But it was always your turn, your turn, your turn. Just kind of pass the spotlight around type of thing. And when we would do it that way, those were fun. And when we did it that way, everybody really, their character's background and their backstory of how they came to be and everything else, we fit. I mean, it was so, because the truth is at the table, as we've said on the show many times, right? Because it happened in a quote unquote real gaming session. It wasn't just shit I wrote on paper. It was like, this happened. Brett and I ran this thing together. Therefore, I'm bought in as storyteller. You are bought in as player because we did this together. So it was a really cool sharing dynamic. And I think that's something that could definitely be used again in any other game, potentially, right? How did you get to be this character? How did you get to be that character? And another way to do it is downtime, right? We've talked about that a little bit, where you would have these side quests where the character's like, hey, you've got some downtime running this X campaign, whatever it is. You've got 2 days worth of downtime. What does your character want to do? Well, I want to go over here. Well, that could be, a duet style mini little something. Take 2 hours to talk through, discuss, role play that scenario, and maybe you have some skill checks, maybe even get in a fight or whatever the case is. But that's another way to develop the characters. And I really think that in that duet style play, Sean, I think there's some good game mastering lessons I can learn by doing that. Because if you fuck it up, it's pretty obvious, right? If nothing else, there's just one other person looking at it. It's
yeah, there is that component, but I think with the nice thing about duet play in doing it as a precursor to starting and kicking off a longer term campaign or shorter arc is that the players can obviously know that their character isn't probably going to die.
Yeah, you're not going to die because this is the character I'm taking in the campaign. So you can you can really play it to the hilt. You can kind of go for the gusto, do a little something crazy, and you're going to survive.
Well, and setting up the expectations of that particular game or couple sessions, 1 session, 2 sessions, is when you, as a game master, present that. Like, okay, here's the deal. I'm gonna run you through a short stint. I got a basis of your background and character, if you want to lean on that. But when I was kicking off Star Wars: Edge of the Empire, everything that dealt with obligation and tying the player characters to each other could have been separate adventures altogether, to the point of like the Dragonlance, right? So the Dragonlance books, original trilogy, they go off and then they come back to the end of the last home.
They're out looking for signs of the gods,
right?
And they come back to the inn and to report on what they found. Yep.
And each one has probably had a novel dedicated to their stint before their meeting and coming back to the end of the last home. But some of those things can come into play where it's like, look, you don't know what's going to happen during this, and I know you're going to run into. I could put the hammer down, but I know my intention is not to kill you outright. So they could take a little bit more risk when there's the death has kind of been set aside, because I think at that point you are running and playing for under a different premise.
Yeah, I think the other thing that comes to my mind when you talk about that, Sean, is that character. I mean, I could see playing that and say, you know what? It makes sense at the end of this thing that this is why my character limps.
Sure.
Right. And suddenly I've developed this flaw or whatever it is. You could go so far as to, when the character is building a background, when they have bullet points of what their background is. My name is Faitor. I'm from Faitor land. My parents were killed by orcs. You say, okay, let's do that. What exactly did that look like? Right. Talk that out, role play through that component of it. And then maybe that's how young Faitor lost his left eye, or why his barbarian rage sometimes is uncontrollable in the presence of orcs and stuff. You can have these things that are tying those backstory high points that you as a player want to have in your backstory, but then tying them together through that activity between you and the game master. There's a real bonding I think we're getting at here that really happens at the gaming table between game master and player, with the dice on the table or cards, or whatever product you're using to run the game. And by having it be and this sounds corny as hell, but an official session, right, that's meant to help the campaign and as part of this whole thing, there's some real power in that.
Well, not only
versus I wrote 4 pages of backstory and the game master didn't read it because he's a dick, right?
Well,
the cases.
Not only that, but I don't know about you, but I know that there are. Okay, let me ask you this, Brett. Have you ever created a character and you had a concept in mind? And you're like, okay, I think I'm going to model it after this, and I think he or she's going to do this. And then you get to the table, and then you're like an hour in, and for whatever reason, you start playing the character differently.
Absolutely, man. This is one of the reasons why I started leaning into stuff. Kojo's talked about this before, where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to develop this character as I go. So essentially, I'm doing that. The character is like, it's a box of stats jumbled together, and then I develop the character's personality, history, and all that stuff through gameplay. Well, if I did that in a prequel adventure, in that duet style play, yeah, I get where you're going, Sean. I like that.
Yeah, because
I do that shit all the time because I'm like, yeah, if I walk here thinking I'm making the next Gandalf and turns out he's actually the next Hasselhoff, well, I should probably.
Yeah. Funny how we go in with the premonition of okay, I think I got this is how I'm going to play. I'm going to play Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul, kind of smarmy lawyer guy, and then all of a sudden I come out as Gandalf the Wise for some reason. I'm all intellectual and thought-provoking and not the smarmy character that I thought I was going to be. But if you do the prequel as a duet play and you just like, okay, kind of clean slate, this is what I had in mind for my character, and then you play it, by the time you hit the campaign with the party, you got stuff that you've actually done that hasn't been made up, and it's already been played in a way you're like, let me tell you how I thought it was going to be like this, pivoted and changed, and it was something that might be more interesting, or you could even change it. Like, oh man, I played a rogue. This isn't going to work. I don't want to play this guy anymore. Hey, Brett, thanks for GMing. I don't want to play this guy anymore. Shit, can I change him?
Yeah, why not? What the hell?
All right, cool.
I'll tell you, man, when my group and I got away from doing the Vampire Embraces, and when we were playing a lot of World of Darkness stuff, and we got away from it, like, hey, let's just get past that and get to the game. We got that mentality for a while. And it lasted for a bit, but pretty soon a couple players said, hey, I'll wrap up a story. We're like, oh, we're going to do some next stuff. We're making new characters. Can we please do the Embrace again? Can we please have that? I'm like, really? I hate that gesture, Sean. You're freaking me out.
It's the Embrace, man.
Yeah, but I don't like the way you're doing it.
You're not here, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
I know. It's just you're creeping me out from 3 hours away. Point is that the players, when they liked it, because you would, again, I think, I love what you're saying here, Sean, because what we're doing is we're walking with an idea and a notion, and then I, as game master, have a pretty good idea what's going to happen or what's going on in the world. And I understand the NPCs in the Chicago by Night City or wherever it is, or Avalon or whatever's going on. If you're playing this, I understand what's in the neighborhood. I'm introducing names and things to you that you as a player are like, ooh, I didn't think about that. Oh, that sounds really cool. Oh, that's a great idea. And stuff, you can do another similar type of thing. If you don't have an entire campaign of it, just another way to use that powerful
downtime
tool. I like it.
Yeah. No, I think it's a format that I haven't played a ton of, but is, the one thing we didn't get into and we didn't mention was the logistics behind putting a group together and playing. Like you and I, when we did this show, it's easy to say, okay, Brett, when are you available? I'm available. Okay, done. Each person you adds a level of difficulty to that.
Right. Yes.
So, hey, if it's just you and another person, scheduling becomes a little bit easier, a little bit more flexible. I'll tell
you, man, if you get people to do that, think about how invested they are in that campaign.
Right.
So I ran a one-on-one for Sean. I ran one for Eileen. I ran one for Laramie, and VC's next. VC wants in. The other people have done it. So we run one there. We're like, when's the next game? Have you finished with VC? Yeah, let's go. People want to play. We built these characters, man. We already had that pre-session. Where's the real stuff? That's the appetizer. Where's the meal? And then people are amped up about it. So there's some power there, man. I through doing that little experiment with you, I think it's kind of opened me back up to looking at that type of thing. And I'm glad you brought that up because I had not thought about it until you said it. Something in the back of my mind was like, you used to do this. What is it? And as soon as you said that prequel thing, that hit it, man. I like that idea. I like that a lot. Because it's could be a little more time intensive, perhaps, and it might not work for everybody, and that's fine. Half these tips and tricks don't always work for everybody or anybody sometimes. But the point is, it's one more shot in your locker,
Yeah, for sure. Agree. Yeah.
We good?
I think so, for sure.
All right, let's kick her on over to die roll.
Yeah, let's go to die roll. Die roll 2 to 4 miscellaneous points of gaming and geekery we want to share with you. Let's get into it. First one.
Yeah, we got a fistful of them this time.
We do have a fistful of them this time. Let me see if I can bring it up.
Backrooms. It's on Drive-Thru RPG, $13. It's a core rules, skill-based character generation system, and it's how do I say this? So if you think about the mysterious, this mysterious place, YouTube memes, all that. God, what's the best way to describe this thing? So there is like creepypasta and all that good stuff online, right? So they've taken some of those really kick-ass ideas and turned them into it's a standalone gaming system. It's really cool. I think I buzzed through it. I got a pre-read of it, and I'm like, you know what? This is a pretty good showing from a new group of people putting out a product. So from my perspective, it's one of those things like, even if you, for me, doing a lot of different horror games and looking at different angles to take at it, I like fresh, different ideas or different approaches of it. And this is the kind of that modern take, which sometimes leaves me flat. But this one I thought was kind of cool. So anyway, you should check it out. We got a link in the show notes. It's on Drive-Thru RPG, Caught in the Backrooms. I think it's worth you guys definitely looking at.
Yeah, way to go, Chad, buddy.
Yeah, no, he's been working on this for quite a while, and I saw him at EverCon. They have play tested it. They've run it a bunch. They've this is not something like they dreamed up and threw out there. They did a lot of work pulling this together, so they should be. They're proud of it, and this is rightfully so.
Very cool. Next one, Cthulhu Confidential. If you want to check out some formal duet type of playing, as well as Knights, Black Agents, Solo Ops, we'll have links down below so you can pick those up at Drive-Thru if you're up for the PDFs. And then they've got a bunch of other ones that are complementary of those two systems, based on Gumshoe, mind you, but nonetheless. The next one is the Rope RPG.net threads on Duet Play. And we'll have a link to this. This is not that link, but there is one that I know of. What the heck? Did I go to the
I still
wrong
can't
one?
believe RPG.net is a place that anybody goes.
Yeah, it's it's been around forever. But here's all the threads on Duet Play. Somebody started and went through and goes down to basics, tipping the scale, side adventure, starting a campaign, communication, romance, making time, blah, blah, blah. Praise, duet settings, duet campaigns. A lot of good stuff as a resource that you could check out.
We should throw this out there too, because I don't think I said it earlier, but if anybody listening to us has good examples of duet one-to-one style play, other than the game system we've talked about, you've had good experiences, or we've got game systems like, hey, this is really good, I have had fun with it, please let us know. We want to push that stuff out in the next couple episodes.
Some guy, he's high roller, I heard, Craig Shipman, Third Floor Wars.
That guy? Oh my God.
Streaming a duet game.
Is he?
Call of Cthulhu, him and Nick.
All right.
Yeah.
That'll be good then.
I don't know how many sessions they're in. I was watching it on Twitch live one night. So I will have a link down below to put in the die roll if you want to check that out. Craig crushing it as the keeper in Call of Cthulhu. And I think it's a scenario that is built for duet play.
Cool.
There you go. Next one. Stuck in a D&D game, song by Carl Davis. You want to rock out to Carl, musician and geeky nerd, talking about, singing some geeky nerd songs that he has come up with originally. Check that out. Also, it's the Carl Davis Show. He also does a podcast. They just had 100 episodes called Tabletop Tango. So you can go and check out Carl. They mostly talk about Savage Worlds. So if that's your deal, you'll appreciate that. But even not, check it out. Thanks, Carl, for being a supporter of the show anyway. And keep it trucking, man. Somebody's got to pick up the torch, right, Brett?
That's right.
Shit.
Yeah, we're not dropping this thing. Someone's going to pick it up. I don't. It's like the Olympic torch, man. It doesn't hit the ground. Never goes out.
Right.
Somebody's got to grab it.
That's right. Let's see. The next thing, RPG Academy. So I was on an episode with Michael and Larry. Larry, friend of the show, and Michael now. Thank you so much. So it's around crowdfunding. So we talked about each one of us had to pick like 3 Kickstarters, Indiegogo, GoFundMe, whatever it is, things that interested us, and talked about the projects and everything. So if you're interested in hearing me, rattle their cages, by all means, check out that episode of TTRPG crowdfunding review. It was fun. And I appreciate Larry and Michael for having me on the show. Thank you so much.
I actually was on This Old Dungeon podcast. I don't know when the guys got that one drop, but that was, oh, good grief. That was yesterday, and that was a long one. That was Edwin, our own very own Edwin Nagy. Lou was on there, and Bill. So we went through, for God's sakes, I think it's 3 hours. I don't know if they want to trim that down or not, but we got into like so much fun stuff, back and forth, history, where this came from, where that came from. Talk about the Hobbit animated movie, differences in soundtrack and Foley scores there, and then all into like the main focus where we got into though was around city campaigns, Avalon stuff. So it was a lot of fun. Hell of a good time. Great crew to talk to. So it was a lot of fun. I don't have a link for that one yet till it drops, but This Old Dungeon, I think it'll be out probably within the next few days. Once it does, we'll throw it in here.
It must be construction, like constructing a dungeon, right?
Exactly.
Like This Old Dungeon. They're going to probably have to put some shims in the door. And
their their listener feedback is notes from the Homeowners Association. So I thought that was pretty cool. Very clever.
Very nice.
And I do have my links in here for the many fail states and the 1-to-1 D&D that Matt Colville did. So that's out there as well.
That's this one right here. Yeah, for sure.
No.
And then this one as well. Matt Colville.
Yeah, but
And then I think that's it.
That is it, man.
For this episode of Gaming in BS. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry to drop the bomb on you guys, but we wanted to put it out there, obviously, and not just disappear or drop it on the last episode. We want to go out with a kind of a bang and help from the community. The upcoming shows that we're going to do, maybe some reflections with Brett and I, like what we learned, what the experience that we've had over the last 7.5 years. How we've changed maybe our views on particular pieces of the gaming hobby or what the case is. So, speaking of which, what are we going to talk about next week, Brett? Do you know?
I have no idea, man. Let's go back to the old days. What are we talking about next week? I have no fucking clue. We'll see what happens.
Okay. We got some in the hopper. I don't know if you and I were going to do a reflection show with just you and just I, or both together. I don't know.
I think we should do it both together. I think
we
tee off of each other on that. So
that's one of them for sure. Mm-hmm. I think. And then the AMA is going to be the end one. So yeah.
There's a couple other things that were in the hopper that might be worth definitely dragging out one more time. So making sure we catch some cool stuff. But
describing our kick-ass penultimate campaign RPG experience. If we had all the money, time, and resources in the world, what would that look like? Nail it down in an hour.
We're having as much fun as we can.
That's right. If you have maybe not a fan of this particular episode, but if you're still a fan of the show, do us a favor, give us a like on YouTube. You can certainly subscribe. You don't know what might pop up here in the future. Otherwise, you can find us at your favorite podcatcher of choice. Find our audio flagship show, and I guess that's kind of it. So, on behalf of Gaming and BS, I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.